Andrew, I can't give you presenter mode just this time, but maybe you want to join us on the next one. And we have Akira from Brazil. Nice to see you. Very cool. Awesome. Let me see. So today I'm actually sharing my screen to get it started. I guess there's still people joining, but nevertheless, I think let's slowly get into it. I don't want to have more than 60 people waiting in the participants. So I hope you guys can all see my screen. Very excited to have you all in today's roundtable. We call it AI Beyond the Chat, from chatbots to embedded intelligence. I'm your host, Philip. I will be guiding and leading through that roundtable tonight. I'm very pleased to have three awesome speakers with me. It's the first time that we're having, or not the first time, but the last roundtables were mostly with external people. But this time we actually have quite some MBST crew, which is the company that I co-founded 6 years ago, where we built all kinds of digital products, and obviously for the past 2 years also a lot of AI enabled digital products. But with me, I have Janda, who's our head of engineering for the AI department, Joshua, who's our head of design, and as our external collaborator and a participant for this roundtable, we have Rafael. He is an AI product owner, so he will be bringing the product perspective to us on how he actually approaches and bridging gaps between engineering and design, merging it together to build great AI products. You will hear from them individually when we go through the roundtable. For now, a quick introduction from my side. What are we going to do tonight? So before we get into the topic, I want to set the scene a bit. So I'm going to give a couple of examples of what it actually means that AI is moving beyond the chat. What does it mean? Like, how does this look like? How do digital products look like that are doing that? I'm sure you all are using them already, or a lot of you guys are using them already, and want to just set the scene for our table. Afterwards, we're going to dive into some discussions, sharing of opinions. We have 3 pillars set out for tonight. The first one is from chat to embedded AI. So where AI actually shows up in the UI, like what kind of features did we see? What kind of new explorations have we seen so far? The second pillar is designing for trust and usability in AI native products, meaning how can we as designers, as engineers, as product managers can make sure that even though we can't fully control the AI, quote unquote, but that the output is something that that can change, and that is sometimes also not as predictable. How can we design for trust? How can we make sure that things are usable? And the third pillar is what I just mentioned as well, and that's why we have all 3 sides in today's roundtable. We have the engineering side, we have the product side, and we have the design side. And how does collaboration and working together actually change if you build an AI product? What changes in the design process? What changes in the engineering process? And also, like, how do product managers need to work with that? As always, we're super happy to receive your questions throughout the roundtable. I will continuously check them and see if I can throw them in at any moment and have them answered by our panelists, or also then at the end where we do a little Q&A session. Before jumping into some real-world examples, maybe just quickly a couple of words about our panelists. Janda, if you want to take the mic, introduce yourself quickly.
Yeah, sure. Hope you can hear me. So thanks everybody for joining. I'm Jordi Martillanda, head of the engineering AI department in MBST. I've been working here for 5 years, so I'm here almost from the very beginning. My focus was mainly on traditional, if that makes sense, software systems. And 1 year ago, we really wanted to start the journey through AI and having like this nice wordings like agents, automation, and all this stuff. So yeah, I'm kind of leading this department. And yeah, I think that would be everything from my side. Again, welcome everyone, and hope you enjoy the talk.
Awesome. Rafael, handing the mic to you.
Yes, great to meet you all, and thank you so much for the invite. My background basically started with process engineering. So I went from process engineering in a factory to designing the data solutions for this automotive company, and then finally to innovation. And then after that, I really dived into AI like 3 years ago. Left everything, left my previous job, Brazil, and came in this pursuit that I'm currently in. Right now, I'm leading the AI developments here in Omni Access, and we are creating AI solutions to improve the maritime connectivity, cybersecurity, and anything that we can basically improve and make our systems more robust. Right now, I put 12 products of AI into production and other 13 more or less of database projects. So let's try to bring all of this together to give you guys some insight. Okay. Thank you so much.
I'm very excited about this one. Marine and the whole boating, yachting, marine industry is also something that is I'm very curious about. So excited to get some insights on that. Joshua.
Yeah, super excited too. Thanks. I'm Josh. I'm head of design at MBST. I think I joined somehow like with Chanda 5-6 years ago. I mean, my background is actually in communication design as well. So I've taken the whole journey that a lot of guys from your side will also know, in terms of like really starting with website designs in Photoshop or whatnot, and then now coming to that journey, and or not the end, but this continuous journey of designing now with AI and Figma, which is super exciting, and yeah, looking forward to today's discussion as well.
Awesome. Thank you very much for the introduction. And to get into the roundtable, I brought a couple of real world examples. You might all know of them. I just want to set the scene a bit. I mean, we all know ChatGPT, we know Claude, we know the Geminis and whatnot out there. And we know that they all bring us a very helpful, but sometimes also very boring user interface in terms of a chat. Obviously, products are starting to evolve into AI first products and where AI is deeply embedded into the system. I think Adobe Photoshop is an example of generative fill. You can still call it a chat if you want, but at least it's embedded within a more complex product and within the UI. I think the same thing goes for Notion AI, inline writing, summarization, creating databases, and doing more complex operations right within your tool, so you don't have to leave the tool. I think that's the easiest level an AI can actually get into a product, and not talking about complex agents that do complex workflows in that sense. Something that a lot of people that coming from the development background might be using now as well, right, is like AI embedded into the code editors, like a GitHub Copilot that does code suggestions or the likes. I always like to also bring up like Grammarly. This has been around, like real-time inline suggestions has been around for ages. Now it's like enhanced with AI to help you really. And I think one of the leading guys currently when it comes to having AI embedded into the product is really Canva with the whole magic tools, how they call it. So they avoid the word AI, and where you can really, really use and feel AI in the day-to-day doing on like managing and animating certain things. So I'm curious to explore more of the tools that we had, and I just found one just by chance. I was logging into this call, and I have seen this suggestion, where the Friends of Figma platform is actually uh, right within the creation flow of an event, is suggesting event ideas. So I might be sailing up with my marketing team here to come up with cool ideas for the next panel talk, because AI Figma has that now built into the platform. So these are obviously very, I would call them still to some degree still surface touching AI products, and I'm very sure that especially Raphael and also Janna will are able to also go way deeper into like very complex AI enabled products. So for me, in order to start the roundtable, I have one question to you panelists. So what is one product you have used recently where AI embedded in the UI really impressed you? Like where did it stood out? Where did it really make an impact? And I'm also giving that question to all the attending people. Please answer in the chat, like what tools you have been using where it really impressed you, where you saw AI embedded in the UI. And with that, guys, whoever wants to answer that question first, take it away. And I stop sharing my screen right here.
Yeah, like one that really seemed interesting for me, and also I think that there's a lot of room for innovation there, is in Jira. I'm not sure if you guys noticed it, but they started to embed some very, very helpful AI features, because basically it's text based, and any kind of like product or any kind of solution that you do that is text based, ChatGPT or Gemini or any LLM can do it very well. So I think that we're gonna see a lot of interesting things there. And this last sprint, did like a lot of my work there, so it was pretty helpful to me. It was not amazing, it was not shiny, beautiful, but it was very on point on what it needed to do. You know.
Nice, good to hear. I haven't been using Jira quite often lately, but it's good to hear that they're also going in that direction. But again, you said right, it was more chat based, so that is something that we still see a lot in the UI. Joshua, what tools were you coming across that really surprised you or impressed you?
I'm checking here quickly the answers, and I'm seeing a lot of Figma, linear, cursor, stuff like that. So basically tools that we use at our daily basis. I think that the one that impressed me the most was a integrated tool in a design system called Planner 5D. I'm doing some construction work right now in my place, and I'm playing around, trying to design how I want the bedroom, how I want the living room, etc., etc. But my design skills are bad. You are aware of that. So there is like this magic button of, okay, you have this space. Basically, I have my room space with the walls, and I can click a button and choose like the style: Scandinavian, Japanese, modern, minimalist, whatever. And it creates a distribution for you of the space. Of course, it's not working like super well, but at least it's like the first approach for someone like me that wants to do it kind of for himself without any help or hiring a designer, because I want it really mine. So it's like about having it mine, and it helps a bit to start, right? It's like the first approach. It's really nice. Of course, the outcome is not nice, but it's amazing how by clicking a button and choosing a style, it's kind of creating this for me. So yeah, I would say that. So this would be.
So this wasn't chat based, right? So it was basically visually based, and you clicked and okay, interesting. Yeah. Joshua, what about you?
It's actually quite hard to choose from, right? But we come through a couple of very interesting scenarios today, probably. One thing that actually surprised me a lot was recently. I was just like visiting the Barcelona office that we have in Barcelona, where actually Chanda stands right now. And Barcelona had this it was like kind of like a marathon, mini marathon. It was just like 10 kilometers, but a city run. So you could basically sign up, you get the number, you can run, and it was like super popular. So it was sold out very fast. And I was like asking around a couple of people, like, hey, do you still have like a ticket? Do you know anyone? And nobody was really able to help me out. So I actually just tried out asking ChatGPT agent. And then I said like, hey, try to find like on sports platforms also, try to find me anyone text to actually get one of these tickets. And then it took forever actually. But it came up with like 2 random names. Like actually like it linked me to their private Instagram like page, which was even like private. Like I couldn't even I had to request them to actually even text them. And then I actually, it was quite funny. Like I requested that, the guy accepted, and then I wrote him like, I can't really tell you why, but I somehow know that you wanted to sell a ticket, no? And then he was like, yeah, that's actually right. Like, and I was able to participate. No? That was something I for sure haven't really used before, but definitely kind of scary, but also quite impressive.
Very scary, actually. I mean, still chat-based, right? Still like within our means of ChatGPT and chat based, but I think very impressive that it could solve you and help you solve this real world use case, right? I think that's where Asian are all moving. And Rafael, a question in your direction. As you are like more on the product side of things, how do you think of, like, I mean, we now heard from Joshua, right? Like, obviously that was agent mode. It was an AI agent that he gave, or that was fulfilling a specific task. And how do you differentiate between building actually AI features or just adding agents to a product? Like, how would you go about that when you conceptualize the product?
Mhm. Yeah, I think this is a very interesting question. But first, before we actually go for the question, it's important to differentiate what an agent really is.
Thank you.
So basically, an agent, what we want from an agent is that he has a goal and he's gonna take different actions for the designers and the engineers there. Like he has different jobs to be done in order to achieve this goal. So like it's pretty different from when you're thinking about a feature, because the feature is one job to be done and the agent is taking multiple different steps and actions there and collecting data and feeding all this data back into the agent so we can improve how it's taking these actions. So basically, the example I think that is perfect for us to really understand it is, let's say that we want to build a travel agent AI. So a feature would be like, okay, I want to go to Munich. Uh, can you help me with the flight? And then it's gonna search you, like you can go from Barcelona, you can go from Madrid, you can go for Serbia, and then you select it. But what we want when we are building an agent is really that it has the autonomy to search for the flights, understand which are the best routes, then search for the different flight companies that are doing this flight, and then finally is making the decision of actually buying the ticket. So it's very, and for us from a product perspective, this jobs to be done view is really really important, because not the user doesn't want to lose all of the jobs to be done. Some of them he hates doing it, like I hate checking 10 different flight companies, but I really appreciate that I can choose from which city I go to.
Yeah.
So it's very important to put yourself in the shoes of the user and try to understand, okay, what is noise and what is like a real thing that he wants to be a part of.
Yeah. Very interesting, Jenna. Like, technically speaking, I think there's quite some, or what are the biggest challenges? Let's frame it like that. Like, obviously, having a chatbot or like the AI contained within the chat window is a completely different story than when it actually does something in your digital product, meaning it touches your canvas, maybe it touches your searches and filters. Like, what are the biggest technical challenge that we as designers and also product managers should be aware of and while thinking about that?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. So I would say like there are three, there are three main blocks that I think are really challenging. Like there is like the communication patterns, how you design the system overall, and subtleties of the agent or of the frameworks that you're using. It's going a bit on the direction that Rafael mentioned. Communication patterns is mainly our traditional way of working. I will say traditional if we're talking about websites and stuff, to have a bit namings for that.
Yeah.
Most of the times is, okay, I need something, I request it, I get it, perfect.
Yeah.
Right? Here we need to react to some things that happen in the background when we are working with an agent. Either if we start it or if it's starting automatically by the with the client, with the front end, because we are sending some context or whatever, there is a job happening in the background. At some point, we'll receive this answer and we need to provide it to the client. So these communication patterns become like a bit more difficult, or at least something that it's implemented in applications at big scale. We need it already from the first go. This leads to the second part, that it's mainly the system design, right? Like we need to have jobs that probably are working at long term. Like for example, the booking tickets project. We need a browser that is running somewhere in the cloud, that it's having like a long-running job. And if the user needs to input because he wants to go from Madrid, we need to have these mechanisms to pause the job, ask the information for the user, and start again. And last but not least, like was talking about the subtleties or the difficulties of the AI frameworks and the AI itself. Like this is a kind of very new world, right? The frameworks are not super mature. Like there are bugs, there are issues. You need to know, like the same way we have specialized roles for front end, we have specialized roles for back end. We would have probably a specialized role for Asian developers that knows about like the whole workflow, and at the same time knows about the LLM itself. The LLMs can behave really difficult. Just changing the context you pass there can make the answer completely or behavior changing. And this one probably is the more art. The rest is like, okay, I have knowledge in software, more or less, I can apply. But here it's more like an art. I need experience. I need to know how this uh, model from cloud behaves, how this other model behaves. And this is really important, and it's the challenge part of it, I would say.
Nice. So what you're basically saying, right? The old classic way is you requested something, you got something back. Now the verdict is you request something, but the thing that you get back, you might need to have different reactions upon, which is obviously also a very interesting part in the UI, Josh, right? Or when we design for such products, like what do you think is the biggest change when you need to design for an AI featured backed product?
Yeah, that's super interesting. In the end, what we are currently doing, right, like, is we have a button and we kind of know what's going to happen next, right? Like if you click on the buy button, you get the checkout. Like with AI, that is a bit more multi-dimensional, I would say. In the end, like we had a similar case with a marketplace partner of ours that we've built, where you can sell and buy sport articles. And we were experimenting with a funnel to see, okay, how can the user actually input all of the details of their sport equipment and get their product faster on the marketplace. And that had actually like a couple more challenges that I initially expected, not only because the like AI is a bit more like multidimensional in terms of like what comes actually out, but also because like we couldn't actually know what like in what quality it comes out as well, right? You have to assume always the worst, which is very hard with AI, right? Like you never know really what goes on inside that mind, and in the end, that was kind of like the biggest hurdle, I would even say, to say like, okay, we do want to do something with AI. It also works with like to a certain extent, but it doesn't, like we can't make sure that it also like it's correct. We can't make sure that the price is really good, because like we also like UX wise having like a big hurdle there, right? If you as a like user try to fill it up with AI, and then suddenly your 3,000 euro sport article is listed for 200 euros, you might feel, okay, like this platform is gonna like trying to
Scam you.
Right? And I think that was something where like we came a long way of saying, okay, like in which part of the funnel can we rely on AI, and at which part can we not rely on AI? And that's kind of like what came down for now. But
did you use any experiments on that? Like, did you use any like proof of concepts? Did you work on like in iterative steps, or how did you go about that?
Yeah, exactly. So we first tried the import function with the model that we actually used for it. So without any interface at all.
Yeah.
And so that was basically the first part. And the second part was then to make it work from a UX side as well. So to kind of like see what would be the most like the scenarios that would happen the most, and what would be the scenarios that could happen at the worst. And this is kind of like the mixed the kind of like the topics that we tried then to cover from a UX side, and make sure that we have kind of like we cover the good, but we also cover the worst, and we are not scaring away any users in that sense.
But that also then means taking it away, saying what changes in the design process So what I hear from you is expect the worst. So meaning obviously in the past we already also not only designed for the happy path but for the bad path, but also in that case for AI, like expect the worst, design for the worst. But also what you just said is right, like you went way, in that sense, way beyond your designer life, and you left the Figma canvas, and the first step was actually to try something and prototype something, see what the outcome is, and that go back to the drawing board. So basically this role kind of flipped a bit. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, totally. I think you're definitely right there. And I think that's something where like we used to rely on our expertise that we know, because kind of like repeating patterns, right? Like for example, if you design websites, that's a case where you have 100% of the control because there's repeating patterns on websites. It's super easy to know what's going to happen next. It's super easy to build a new landing page. In products, it's already a bit more complex. Like the user flows are overlapping. You have different kind of like edge case scenario. And then with AI, you really need to take it down into different steps, make sure that these are kind of like happening better. And yeah, I mean, the feature is still under development. So also still figuring out the way to go there. But I think that's where we are all at right now. Yeah.
Nice. Raphael, like you as a PM, right? I mean, you facilitate a bit the work between design and engineers as well. How do you approach, like, I would call it not experiments, but like, how do you go about it? If you have come up with a new feature idea, if there's a new request where you say, hey, this could be an AI enabled, this could be an AI enabling feature, but how do you go about, like, in terms of planning it? Like, you go first, like, at the drawing board together with the designer, you start with an engineer and like actually working on like a simple proof without any UX? Like how would you go about it?
Like some years ago, like there was this big hype and buzzwords about human-centered design, and then everybody
Yes.
forgot about that, and nobody talks about this. But actually, they were right in my perspective about many things. The guys that made that. So I think that when you're considering about whether you do this AI feature or not, or if it really solves a problem, or if it's just hype, it's basically about setting up the right problem that you want to solve. Like, because I don't think we need to think about, okay, should I use AI or not? It's more about thinking, should I actually solve this problem or not? There's like two catchphrases, kind of Mr. Miyagi, that I really say to my team all the time, which is like, what can't be measured can't be improved, and also the best way to achieve nothing is trying to achieve everything. So like the way that I approach this, should I do AI or not, is really, okay, what are the biggest pains that we have? What are the biggest issues that we have? From that, what solutions can I build to solve these issues? And after we done this match, problem solution, we rank it, all these ideas, like what is the feasibility, what's the time to first deploy, and then we have a very clear roadmap into, we start here, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, we're gonna do that, and we don't start any AI product unless we have this clear value being proven. So basically, like the question, if like how can we make sure that we generate value? For me, like we should follow approach similar to one that Amazon does. So Amazon have a lot of data into their customers. Let's give it an example. Like I think that there's a lot of designer here. So let's think that I'm a designer. I have my profile in Amazon. I'm gonna search for a new keyboard. So the first thing that I do when I write keyboard, Amazon already fill it up. Uh, you mean mechanical keyboard? Because he knows that I'm a designer and I'm searching for a keyboard. So let's completely right, mechanical keyboard. This is already an AI feature. I click it, it opens up 10 different products, not 1,000. The first three are the best for me typically. You're gonna find your keyboard among the first five. This is also an AI feature. You click it, and then okay, so now I'm gonna buy my finally I'm gonna buy my mechanical keyboard. But Amazon also knows that, okay, if this guy is expending 300 euros into a new keyboard, probably he wants one of those fancy mouse, so like a analog mouse. Let's put it together. Oh yes, he have my profile. This guy is also a designer. Let's put some Pantone mugs or a tote bag together. So like when I have my experience, there's not really AI. For me, it's just okay. Magically, things are happening, and these things are happening because they know a lot about the users, like what is good, what is bad, what is the preference, what is the demographic. So the best way of not making a bullshit AI, sorry for saying that, bullshit AI feature is to really understanding the problem and the user and making sure that what you do
Yeah.
really is affecting it and measuring that
Yeah.
the behavior changes.
So, but that means even before you start doing anything, Rafael, what you're saying is you really try to assess the use case, the user needs, and you're doing, I would call it a return on investment calculation,
Yeah.
whether it makes sense to use AI or not. So that's even before what Joshua just said, right? In building like a POC, and in that sense,
Yeah.
like from an AI, from an engineering perspective, right? I think what we also talked a lot and heard a lot is like you don't know how it how it behaves, right? You don't always know what the output is. You can't look deeply into it. Like how can we also as designers, as product managers, but then obviously also as you guys, as the engineers, how can we help and support? And what kind of mechanism can we use to like make the output reliable to keep users' trust in that sense?
Yeah. Faith. It's a proof of faith. No.
So we are all doomed, you mean?
No, I mean, I think that the rules of the game are super clear. We are living in a non-deterministic situation. We have like stealing a bit like the description of an agent that Rafael said, right? So we have like a guy that can think. This is the LLM that we interact with, and we give them some sort of behavior attached, right? He can click an element in the browser for us in order to book the ticket. To be honest, like prototyping and bringing up a proof of concept, it's something that usually works fine, right? Like the use cases that you have in mind or the context that you're using it works well. But then when it goes to a production scale and the testing, it's with multiple users, then it's when you start to see non-reliable sometimes behaviors. For that, I think that here it applies a lot of mechanisms that we use in, again, traditional software, but applied for AIs. Basically, first of all, prevention, right? Rafael already mentioned the prevention, and you as well, right? Basically, here is designing the system to have fallbacks and basically not fail completely, but rather fail partially or success partially, right? If I cannot finally book the ticket to Madrid, at least provide me which is the company you found the ticket for, which is the flight number, etc., to easily find it, right? So this would be really the prevention, but prevention alone is not enough, right? On top of it, we have testing, but how do we test something that is not deterministic, right? For such a thing, we need to think of the system as a whole, right, and have a continuous pipelines of testing of the system, right? So basically, we have our regressions test that we call as this buzzword in software. So basically, we need to ensure that the system is not breaking into time. For that, like there are three big group of tests or like three areas that we will test. Basically, our happy path, but also very important to test edge cases and impossible paths, right? Edge cases would be, for example, to do something that have a conflict, so a flight that expired, for example. An impossible thing is to book a flight for the past week, right? For that, basically, you would have your system and you will monitor if the goal, the final overarching goal, not the steps, but the goal, because the steps, again, can be like in a different steps, like the LLM from day 1 to day 30 can also change because they are doing patching, bug fixing, like all of this stuff, that the system as a whole still behave. And on top of that, monitoring, like observability is key in such sense. But especially with AIs, we can monitor how our requests to the LLM. Again, the LLM is our engine under the hood that makes or give us the decisions to go and see how this performs. This is important because you can see like the evolution. Also, like with the tooling that we have right now, we can also see the graphs. Have a graph how this behaves. I had this input, went to this path, etc., etc. And on top of that, also this is really interesting and important because for a client, the demos that we used to have, like, yeah, we show a web page, or we show that this behaves. This is difficult sometimes, right? Because if I want to book a ticket, the client can only see that the ticket is booked, right? Rather with that, we have like some sort of monitoring system where the client can say, okay, this opened, like it clicked this button, it failed because it didn't have the payment method. Then it required to go and ask the user payment method, whatever, right? So it's mainly about using the good and old and proven mechanisms that we have, but apply to the LLMs. Of course, there are different like group or sophistication of that. You can go with the bare minimum of having like this system as a whole and regression test, or you can even like test your interaction with the LLM with some interaction and see if for certain things it's using the right tooling or etc. But it's mainly about this.
Do you also see that product managers and designers in the future will use these observability tools more? Because currently, I think it's something that is still very technical or like technical heavy. And I'm imagining in the future something like a Hotjar, right? Like where I can see where the user clicked around, but for the LLM, for a designer and also PM to look under the hood and understand where the like where are cases that we maybe didn't cover. Like, do you see that in the future? Do you see that these tools develop in that direction?
Definitely, especially on the product side, for sure. Right, like in the end, like we need to know what's happening there and how to react even. But yeah, it's nothing that. So for now, like with our traditional systems, it's more about like the technical people, right? Why this is down, why the requests take long, what's happening there. But here we are in the end like giving our decisions to something external, so we need to validate this as well, not only for the products, again, like for the product managers or the designers also. I want to iterate on that, the clients, right? The clients can also analyze what's going on there and do an assessment and say, okay, here I don't know why this is happening like this, or I would like to follow another path. So yeah, but of course, like the whole loop will involve way more people. So I think that if there was a boundary, I think every day is closer. And I saw like here a comment about vibe coding. Maybe we'll get back here in a while. But if now like the boundary between designers, products, and engineers is not big, I think it will get way closer on that side for sure.
Yeah, one comment here, Philip, very quick. In my team currently, we need to look into, if not all, but most of the decisions of the agents that we have in production. Because we have agents that, for instance, they are checking the satellite signals, and if there's an interruption or a problem with their satellites, it should inform the client, because the client cannot be without connectivity, or he should manage a ticket. And if he sends the client with the wrong information, or if it for some reason understands the signal data wrong, we need to know there's an issue with our model, there's an issue with our pipeline. So like it would be nice if this wasn't a part of my day-to-day life, but it is, and it's going to increase. And we have one guy in the team that is a quality expert that look it over, I don't know, like 500 decisions of the agent, and it's already a reality for us.
Awesome. That's nice to hear. Like, do you use self-build tool? Like, is the tooling already there, would you say? I mean, also for non-technical people in that sense, or is that still something that you think that will come?
For us, it's already there, really. Like, yeah.
Nice.
Because also our company itself, most of the people have some technical knowledge. So our clients, like our internal clients, they would ask these kind of questions as well.
That's very interesting. I mean, we just heard the question about vibe coding. Maybe giving that a bit into the direction of Joshua. Like, first up, like, is your design team relying more on vibe coding and trying to code stuff without engineers more now?
I mean, Chanda would probably come to my desk and close my laptop if I say no. Yes, but no. I mean, in the end, I think it really depends on the stage of the design phase, right? I mean, I've seen it, like we've tried it out in various ways and to see like the best point of attack there. And in the end, it really came down to, like, in the early phase of the project, it's really hurting the project more than anything else. In a later phase of the project, it's really like contributing to a better understanding of like something, but the idea has to be fleshed out already. Like, that's imperative, because Otherwise, you're gonna like come up with something that, and now we're going again in this direction of like the AI is doing something, and it usually always sounds good until you look deeper into it. But if you're doing that in the early phases, you're actually like losing the ability to judge if it's good or not. And that can be quite dangerous. I've seen that with a couple of PMs, like also at clients, that came up with, hey, I've done this thing here, designer, please design it out quickly and we can launch it. And then we saw actually, well, it doesn't work at all. I mean, like that clicked, I mean, like it looked impressive because it's fully like working, but not really like, and it was incredibly hard to reverse engineer that and like actually find back to the path of what did we actually want to build here, right? Because in the end, like there was a prompt and then like it just came from there. And I think that's very interesting, which also points a bit into this like question that we had in the beginning, Philip, about the like security or like the trust element of design, which is also then interesting because like you're kind of losing the trust there into the AI, even though you maybe just misused it, right?
Before going into that, I mean, Joshua, I think, do you also think what Jana just said, right? Like the gap between designers and engineers, especially, will get closer? Do you think vibe coding is one of the mechanisms that will bring them closer?
Vibe coding is definitely one of the mechanisms. I believe it's also just, I mean, it sounds very trivial, but like purely the ability to research some, like developer writes me something that I don't understand. I mean, I've done a bit of coding, but I have no idea sometimes what the developers really need. I'm just giving that to AI, like telling me, hey, can you explain that to me in like simple terms? Like I'm a 5-year-old kid. I need to understand that. And it helps me actually to understand so that I can frame in my head better what I need to deliver to the development team. And I think AI already starts there in these like super simple interactions. They don't really like shine through, like a lot of the times they get forgotten a bit, but I believe the actual AI value is really more in these like simple interactions, in these like interactions that are actually happening in the background that you don't really see. Of course, you can come up with a nice V0 prototype and so on, but I don't think that this is solely something that will put developer and design teams together. Yeah. Maybe in some occasions it would even like break it up a bit because the developers think that designers think now they can't code, and the designers are like, yeah, it's super easy, just to vibe code it. But then the developers is like, what about tech debt? You know, it looks good, but the code is shit sometimes. No, of course, code quality will improve and all, but I think that yeah, alone the vibe coding will for sure not bring together the teams.
If I may add something on top of this, I think that vibe coding, maybe it's not the mechanism, but understanding or designers explaining what is the final goal, right? This could really help. Right now, we are in a new development era, I would say, where like 100%. My days of coding are not coding, but asking stuff. And here I think it's where designers can really go there. If we have a nice code base, because of course, like when we code, it's not about making it work, but it's to making it work properly and having the capabilities to really build on top. And this is usually the issues. But if we have a solid code base and the designer can go there and really explain what is the goal, here I think that just by like showing the design and having an explanation, there can be really a common point in a near future where the designer can actually write maybe a ticket in linear explaining what to do, how to do, and with visual examples. And this can be, of course, maybe not finishing the full feature at first, but at least having a very nice starting point for the developer to iterate on this, fix, I don't know, like working on conflicts that could appear on top of it, but reducing a lot the time that developers spend. And here I think that there is a common ground that can be found.
Like my take is I agree, but also in another direction. I feel like designers typically have a different point of view when checking for how things should be built. So I think that it's counterintuitive if we think that when we're designing the AI, we should have a fully human perspective. But in the end, this for me is the part that really brings more attention to the designers, because they do have the right tools of going into a meeting or going to a scenario where the customer is struggling, and can really understand it from a more human point of view. And for me, when we're talking about this kind of AI implementation into a company, into a software, this for me is the most important part, really. So that's how I see it.
So again, coming back to what you said at the very beginning, right? It's like this human-centered design for you is now even more relevant than it was back when everyone talked about it, because we're designing for something that is trying to mimic
Yeah.
human behavior and has also unexpected behaviors. Awesome. I would like to explore two more questions. We just have around about 10 minutes left to also have enough time for a bit of a Q&A still, because I see some questions coming in. We also have the Q&A panel where you can still post some questions. I want to one more topic about the whole trust, and feel free of whoever wants to grab it. When you design with AI, and I mean, Rafael, you gave a couple of examples where you said like, hey, Amazon is using AI, but you don't even know it. Like, how do you do that in your company right now? Like, if there is an AI that is not obvious to the user, do you tell them? Don't you tell them? Like, do you keep it a secret? Like, are there any UX, UI elements that you use to convey that?
Yeah, actually, this is a very important question, because there's two different point of views. If you're talking about adding AI to our simple products, we don't want for the user to feel threatened by it. So I think it's very relevant that we add a little button like, I want the AI to do this in the beginning, while the users, why our confidence into our AI is not super high. So we are figuring out what it needs to do. We're figuring out if it's good or not. And it's very important to think about putting a human in the loop while we are developing this AI. So let's say in our case, in my company, like one of the AIs that we build is constantly looking into 200 different ships that we have. And when there's a technical issue there, this AI is gonna use analyze the data to understand what is going on there. And instead of directly trying to solve this, what we do is it comments on the tickets that we have, on the IT tickets, and then it's sending the email to the clients informing about this issue, and also brings like a button in which a person can correct or cancel this process. So like when we are talking about building AI into UX, it's very important to understand what part we can automate, what part we shouldn't never automate, and while you are improving your solution, you don't try to automate too early. So it's very nice to think like, first it bring up some solutions if you click the button, and then later automatically it bring you up some insights, and then it's taking some actions alone and you are approving, and then finally it does everything. So that's how I perceive it.
Very interesting. Very nice. Joshua, any take from the design perspective there as well that you would like to add in terms of like conveying trust and like underlying that? Is like, how did you do in your funnel tool? Like, did you tell the user that it was AI backed, or would you tell them?
No, we definitely did. And I think the super interesting part for me is, if you look back like a couple of years, we had always this, like, technology naturally leaned towards this trend of having like a co-pilot at your side, right? And it used to be always like some, like, kind of like a human or pet, right? Like if you remember Clippy from back in the days, or also Alexa, Siri a bit, but Alexa more. Like they were always had, like, they had this personality, and I find it very interesting that, I mean, if we talk about like real AI use cases, a lot of the times they lose this kind of personality aspect and are more like just useful. And I think I'm really happy to see this, because it's so easy to get frustrated with other persons that just don't work. And I'm talking about Alexa, for example. Like I hate Alexa. Like she's good in turning on the lights and turning off the lights, but apart from that, she's super stupid. And if you don't even give that kind of like service to to the AI in terms of like having this personality. If you don't want it to have it, then that that takes away a lot of frustration in that sense. And I mean, you might now say ChatGPT superhuman, right? But yeah, only if you want it to be. In the end, like the ChatGPT logo or so, like nothing as like a mascot there. It's more like very taken back until you actually want to interact with it.
Awesome. To wrap it up with the last question before we go into a couple of QAs, Janda, fast forward 2 years, like what do you feel, like what do you think will be normal in our UI? Like, will we even use UIs anymore? What do you think the next 2 years will hold for us?
Um, good question as well. I think that in a more long future, the UIs will disappear somehow, or at least disappear how we understand them right now. But this is completely my good feeling. At short term, I would say that what will be there for sure in a lot of things is interactive suggestions. So basically, instead of me navigating the platform in order to do any task of the platform, I will take an example of Factorial, right? In Factorial, I want to request some vacation days, or I want to put like, yeah, request an absence. Instead of like going and navigating through the platform, for sure, there will be like some suggestions to do it, or I will be able to accomplish this goal integrated directly with the platform by writing or even speaking to it. And also the auto completions, like there will be auto completions everywhere, like really from the first moment. Yeah, I think this is my take on it.
Sure. One sentence. What's your take on fast forward 2 years?
Integrations, I think. Like right now, we are optimizing in frameworks that are working very well within it. But I hope to see at least that at some point we are like super free in terms of like connecting tools with questions, making sure that that works.
Perfect.
Well, for me, I'm very interested in the world models in AI, like because for me, like the LLMs models as it is, it can go until one point, which is language based. And when we want to put it into a more complex context, like the one that I'm currently at, it can be quite tricky to have good results, especially when you are talking about an LLM interacting directly with data or with geographies and things like that. So I'm think that our future, like of AI, is like, and we have already have some things going in this direction. There's a model called Alpha Earth from Google, which is kind of a LLM for Earth. But I think that the AIs are gonna start more and more to understand the contextual information that is not only language based. So this is what I hope, because if our LLMs can interact with numbers, it would make my life so much easier, to be honest.
So we got a whole new topic now that we can use for our next roundtable, because I also find that very fascinating, and you already told me a bit about it. But also looking at the time, I think we heard like a vast majority of different opinions, like design for the worst case, prototype, or calculate the return on investment first, understand if an agent is actually needed, prototype before designing / prototype while designing, combine the UX and convey the UX. And as a last thing, also giving the user the trust that he's still in control, I think is also something that we heard now from Rafael. Like, don't let it do all the actions right away. Get some reconfirmations from the user. I think this is where we are currently in, at least, and maybe also for the next year that will hold us to the UI. I also think that integration, and we go a long way basically in terms of will UI still be there? Thank you very much, guys. We have a couple of questions that we would still like to answer, and hope everyone listening already got their insights that they were hoping for. First question, it's also directed here from Sylvia to Raphael. So which part of the UX should not be touched by AI?
Cool. So basically, the ones that the user needs to choose something. So you can make like a recommendation, but the idea is that he clicks, I want this, because if there's a slight hallucination or error, this will really be harmful for the company or for the solution. And also when the agent is taking a action that is not reversible. This is more or less how we see it.
Mhm.
So,
Interesting.
and third, just to finish, if is going against, if the error of the agent can break company foundation rule or culture. Like in our case, in my company, if I message the client and it's completely wrong, this
Yeah.
breaks our culture, basically.
Yeah. 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 Makes total sense. Awesome. Joshua, question, a design question. Which AI platform you can't live without anymore besides ChatGPT, Gemini? Is there one that you like that you don't want to wish away anymore?
I mean, of course, the most famous platforms are very like much the ones that are also the most useful ones. I discovered actually like I believe it's called Arts something. I can check out the title, which is very interesting because it kind of like it's a very nice copilot. So it actually lets you place comments on your design or on the design that it creates, and then you can just like place a comment like you would with a real like designer, and it actually just changes that detail. Then I need to check the name though. Don't find it here right now. Love art, yeah, that was it. Love art, yeah, like love and then art. But to be honest, it's more like on the artsy side, so I don't really like use it for too much for my personal gain. I would say it's the big five. To be honest, it's more about how to use them rather than finding 20 different tools. I think it's more like good to know actually like who to go to with what, because all of them have their own strength. So it's kind of like, I think it's more focusing about that. But good question.
Awesome. Let's see what else we have. And there's a question about where you can follow us. I think you can find all these individual persons on LinkedIn to follow them, connect with them, and to get in touch with them when we want to talk about something. Could you please send us the recording? You will get an email afterwards of the recording of these talks. I still have a question about ethic and bias in AI products. I think that's a whole big topic and world as well, but maybe we try to make it short and crisp in terms of like what can we do from a design perspective to ensure ethical and non-biased use of AI products.
This one is a tricky one, huh?
Yes, no one wants to take it.
I think you need to test a lot, really, really a lot. That's how that's the first part, because it's hard by design to predict what a bias is gonna be. So like actually solutions into the agents. So this can go out of hand quickly. So worst cases and right now.
Yeah, and context. A lot of context. Like again, when we interact and we develop in this area, the main foundation of all of it is a black box for us. We can ask and we get responses, right? We can guide a bit or refine by some certain techniques like giving context, racks, or even like fine tuning the model, something that probably is out of the scope for most of the companies. But it's leveraging as most these techniques in order to accomplish the certain goal. But yeah, this is the like a challenge because again, like it don't depend on us. It's something that we use because it's there. I don't know how to phrase it to fit in 30 seconds answer, but yeah, the challenge is here. So we can like by testing and monitoring, as Rafael said, like try to narrow it. But yeah, there are things that are a bit out of our control. And here with the monitoring tools, not only for the reliability of the models, but with such tools we can see and analyze and having like this background assessment that we can do. But yeah, it's a tricky one, especially if talking about the design part and not like the technical that I'm talking about.
I think the most tricky it gets is probably like also with the chatbots, the traditional ones, because I mean there were like for example, with Grok, there are like these moments where like the personalities were exposed, and then it was just like a personality that was like even a bit like political incorrect, you know. And I think that is like something that I also see. I mean, that's not per se connected really to the core topic of today now, but where I see it's going to be quite interesting how the younger generation also grows up, because I mean, like AI loves to give you positive biases. It's just like in its nature, because it's trained to like try out two different things, and it knows that that humans always like to be right. So they usually say like, yeah, you're right. And I believe that this is something in terms of ethical designing that we have to flag very much if something is positively biased or if it's actually AI, because yeah, you know how it is. And it's so easy to fall into the trap. I mean, even if you know it, you write with it and you think, yeah, I mean, of course, it was an amazing question that I just asked, but maybe it was just the most normal question, right?
Yes, ChatGPT, my idea of LinkedIn for dogs is really amazing. Thank you.
Exactly.
Guys, we are already 5 minutes over time. I don't want to have you guys or take more of you guys' time. Thank you very much for the talk. I definitely took away my insights. It was really lovely to chatting, and I think we can really, yeah, we should definitely have a next round to dive deeper into one of the topics, because we always just scratch the surface. So thank you very much for everyone joining. Thank you guys for the panel talk, and yeah, we'll hope to see you guys soon. Have a good evening, good day, good morning, wherever you currently are, and speak and see you maybe in the next one.
Thank you, Philip. And thank you, Raphael and Chanda. Super interesting topics.
Thank you, guys. It was amazing.
care,
really, really enjoyed.
Ciao, ciao.
Thank you very much. Speak soon.
See you. Bye-bye.